Did you guys realize that there are actually 10 reasons you should not buy an Xbox? Well, this article by TOPTENS.fun says that you absolutely should not get a Series X. Let's get into it. What is going on, guys? Major Ben here, back with yet another brand new video. This is going to be a slightly different one today. We're going to have a bit of fun and laugh at this article that's absolutely ridiculous. But before we get into that, please, could you guys consider liking the video if you do enjoy it? If you don't enjoy it, please do go down to the comments section and let me know what I can do to improve my content. And if you really enjoy it, please do press the subscribe button with that bell notification icon, and yeah, you'll get notified for all the latest and greatest Xbox news. So let's get into it. So the first point on this article, actually, let's read the top title. So I'll show you, you guys will have it up on screen, but top 10 reasons why you shouldn't consider buying an Xbox Series X. This is written by Michael Wendham, last updated this year, so it's literally very new. The Xbox Series X is made to impress with both design and performance. After a relative failure of the Xbox One, Microsoft has done a lot not to repeat its mistakes and come back on top. Nonetheless, there are still reasons why you should skip the Xbox Series X, or at least wait a bit before it joins your living room. As we're not biased, you can also check our list of top 10 reasons not to buy a PlayStation 5. We may cover that in another video, by the way, guys. But let's check out reason number one. And the number one reason, guys, is PS5 exclusives. And under the little image here, as you will see on screen right now, it says you won't see Gran Turismo 7 on the Xbox consoles or even PC. That is their first reason. Like, out of all the games they could have picked on the Sony platform, they picked Gran Turismo 7 is a game that you will not see on Xbox. PS4 exclusives were probably the biggest reason why it beat the Xbox One. Sony knows that well, as it uses the strategy even more with PS5. This includes new additions to the favorite franchises, but also complete remakes and new IPs. While Sony started porting some of its exclusives to Windows, many won't ever come to it or arrive years after the PS5 release. As we've said, Xbox Series X doesn't have a single exclusive, so PS5 gamers with an average gaming PC configuration have no reason to buy the system. Microsoft is sticking to its philosophy that exclusives are not fair to consumers. Still, we're not sure that's a winning strategy. Okay, well, let's see about that. The Xbox One did have exclusives. Yes, they were rare. There weren't many of them, but it did have exclusives. And that system, as it mentions in this article, was a colossal failure, according to the article. Yet here, it's saying that the strategy Microsoft are pushing, which is causing the best launch of an Xbox system of all time, a failure, and saying they're not sure it's a winning strategy. Well, that's kind of contradicting yourself there. And judging by how many IPs, how many games the Xbox has already had come out for the Series X system, I don't think that stands up. We've had Forza Horizon 5, one of the best games. Yes, it's not exclusive to Xbox, but Phil Spencer sees PC as the Xbox ecosystem. So it is still exclusive to Xbox. You cannot play Forza Horizon 5 on the PlayStation 5. We've also had a flipping fantastic game called Halo Infinite. Not sure if this guy's heard of it, but it was freaking awesome. 2 exclusives towards the end of the year. I admit it is towards the end of the year, but if you look at the future, check out my recent video talking about all the games that are coming out in 2022, this year I may add. There are tons there to be hyped about, and I would argue more than there is to be hyped about than the PS5. So that kind of just throws this first point out the window. The fact that you cannot play PS5 games on a Series X is a stupid argument. You cannot play Series X and Series S games on a PS5. So that's just utter trash. The second reason, guys, on this article, the next reason on this article is just Xbox Series S. Apparently that's the reason you should not buy a Series X. Let's read this. Microsoft surprised everyone by offering the Xbox Series S at only $299, while promising that it's still a powerful console. Series S doesn't have a disk drive, but it still supports ray tracing and has has the same speed SSD as the Series X. However, it does have lower performance, meaning it won't support 4K gaming. Actually, yes, it does. It already has 4K games on the system, but up to 1440p. So if you have a 1080p display or medium-sized budget 4K TV, you just said it doesn't support 4K. What the hell? The Xbox Series X is pretty pointless. Right, okay. So even, let's just take Dying Light 2, the game that launched most recently, for me. That game on the Series X has a 1080p 60 FPS mode, a 1080p 30 FPS mode with ray tracing, and a very near full 4K at 30 FPS mode. The Series S, I love the system. It's a fantastic console, only has a 1080p 30 FPS mode with no ray tracing. Okay, so just, that already disproves that, yes, of course, there's a reason to buy a Series X. Not to mention the storage capabilities. You have a terabyte on the Series X and only 512 on the Series S, meaning if you bought a 512 gigabyte card to put in the back of it, you'd basically be very close to the cost of the Series X at this point. Then you've got the power difference, the actual power difference of the system in terms of the teraflop performance, the cores, the gigahertz of the CPU, which is very close. The CUs of this thing. It's a huge jump over the Series S. And even if you only have a 1440p or a 1080p display, you are still going to get far better performance and far better graphics on the Series X. That is a fact. So yet another point of this article out of the window. Point 3, no real exclusives. Do you know that Xbox One has only about 10 exclusives and most of them are Kinect-only games? The Xbox Series X stands even worse, as it won't have exclusives at all. Of course, Forza, Halo, and Gears won't come to PlayStation 5, but they are only console exclusive. That means that they will be available on PC and will look even better there. If you have a gaming PC, all you need is PS5 to play the exclusives and a few third-party games that aren't coming to Windows. That's why we seriously doubt that any PC gamer will decide to buy Microsoft's console. Plus, as we said, lots of Xbox Series X first-party games are cross-gen. I'm a PC player. I play Call of Duty on PC with my 3090 and my 12th gen i9, the top of the range one. And I choose to play on my Series X because simply, I know it's difficult to believe for some people, I just prefer console gaming. I like my quick switching between games. My £4,000 PC does not offer that. My Series X for £450 does offer that, so I choose to play there. And you could say the same thing about PlayStation 5. The majority, and even in the future, it's potential that they could come day and date to PC, the PS5X games, they are going to also run better on the PC. So that whole thing is the exact same thing for the PlayStation. I don't get what they're trying to get at here. And since when is it negative to have games releasing on other platforms like PC? Why is that a problem? And it's still exclusive to Xbox because, yet again, Phil Spencer sees Xbox and PC as the same thing. He doesn't care where you're playing on. As long as you're playing on the Xbox platform, i.e. if you're going to play Forza, Halo, and Gears, you may as well buy Game Pass, which is called Xbox Game Pass. You are still playing on the Xbox ecosystem. Number 4, PS5 has faster SSD and it doesn't need a proprietary expansion. Xbox Series X has an impressive SSD, which is even larger than the one in PlayStation 5, 1TB versus 825GB. However, it still offers 2.4GB per second compared to Sony's 5.5. Also, PS5 SSD has enough speed to be used by developers as additional RAM. As the developers get to know PS5 better and the games get larger, the performance difference will only increase. PS5 has an obvious advantage when it comes to expanding storage. Gamers can buy regular NVMe drives, although not all of them are compatible with the console. Still, this is much better than what Microsoft is doing. To increase the available space, you need to buy a proprietary Seagate card, which is more expensive and harder to get. So let's analyze this. Now, yes, I agree. It is factual that the Sony PS5 SSD is faster than the Xbox Series X and S SSD. It just is. That is a fact. But where it says about the PS5 SSD is fast enough to be used as additional RAM, this is the same case on the Xbox. You have things like velocity architecture there in place so that 100GB of data is there directly available to the GPU at any given time. This feature is available on Series X and I would argue actually picks up the difference between the gigabits per second between the Series X SSD and the PlayStation 5 SSD. They are very evenly matched when using velocity architecture to do with the RAM side of stuff. Now, obviously, there are certain things that the PS5 SSD is going to be quicker, but have we seen that in the real world yet? Absolutely not. In fact, more games run faster with loading times on the Series X than the PlayStation 5 right now. But we obviously do have to see what happens in the future. Will this mean that some games will only run on PlayStation 5? Absolutely not. PC, yet again, as all these games are coming to PC on both systems, as they so bravely said previously in this article, they are going to have to spec for PCs, meaning they are now the lowest common denominator. People are still using 54 and 7200 RPM drives on the PC, so those games will have to be spec for those. Even if they upgrade the minimum specs of PCs to basic SSDs, and I mean standard very slow SSDs with even a gigabyte of compression and gigabytes per second, sorry, then, you know, you're still going to have to spec for those. So that whole thing is just a load of garbage, to be honest. It's absolute crap. Next is cross-gen exclusive. Microsoft wants to keep Xbox One players happy as it promises that almost all Xbox Series X exclusives will come to their consoles. While many will applaud the company for this move, there's a huge downside to it. The issue is that the difference between the versions won't be as high as with real console exclusives. It says early signs were bad enough, as it was hard to see the disparity between Gears 5 running on the Xbox One X and the Xbox Series X. Of course, the resolution is better and there are a few more details, but it still only looks a slight remaster. Even with ray tracing support, the differences won't be significant. So they also mentioned, I should say, it should be noted that Sony is doing similar with the PS5, but their cross-gen support is much more limited. So you just put your own negative there about how little their cross-gen support is. It's terrible. Their back compat support is not anywhere near what Microsoft is doing. Microsoft are boosting FPS in games, resolution in games with their FPS boost features. But let's talk about what it said about Gears 5. Gears 5 is a huge improvement on the Series X over the One X. This guy actually played these games and looked at them. I mean, also, he's saying that this is a last gen game upgraded. They did not remake this game for the Series X. They actually say when they talk about Gears 5, they touched barely anything with the game and they're just letting it use the power of the Series X and have not developed anything, not changed any of the code for the game. So, you know, obviously it's not going to be the biggest improvement from a Series X to an Xbox One X. Of course it's not. You're talking about an old game, a last generation game. Why is this a bad reason? A game that on the last generation has been boosted for the Series X hardware. How is that a bad thing? I played Until Dawn with my girlfriend a few weekends ago, and that game is still running at terrible frame rates, terrible resolutions on the PlayStation 5, and that's the exact same thing. At least Microsoft have put the effort in to take this game and improve it on the Series X systems, unlike what Sony's been doing with many of their exclusive titles. Point 6, no VR. I don't know if I even want to talk about this one. This is a complete preference thing. You could see it as yes. If you're a massive fan of VR, then this is a huge problem for you. You're going to want to play VR, so therefore get the PS5. PSVR 2 has been talked about, and Xbox does not have any plans for VR at this time. So sure, that's fine. The next point, point 7, power consumption and heat. Microsoft was desperate for Xbox Series X to be the most powerful console, but there is a price to pay for it. The system is not at all environmentally friendly, as it may consume more than 300 watts. That's significantly more than the Xbox One X, which didn't go over 250 watts, so yeah, 50 watts more, mate. On the other hand, Sony boasts that the PS5 is energy efficient and only uses 0.5 watts in suspended mode. So you're comparing a 300 watt max load on the Series X system versus a PS5 in suspended mode being 0.5 watts. Just get your head around this, guy. This is absolutely ridiculous. Of course, this means that gaming on the Xbox Series X will increase your electricity bill if you play for about 2 hours daily. This will cost you around $26 every year. Okay, that's pretty minor expense, but you'll still be more eco-friendly on the PS5. Hang on a minute. Was this article not talking about a few minutes ago about buying a max spec or medium to high spec PC, which is going to use up to like 600 to 800 watts under load? What is this? And then comparing a 300 watt under max load and an Xbox One X of 250 watts under max load against PS5 being energy efficient in 0.5 watts in suspended mode. I mean, I've actually heard, for example, Take Wood, the YouTuber, he does a Switch channel, Beat 'em Ups, he's called. He actually talks about how his PS5 constantly crashes as it's constantly drawing too much power and his electricity goes down and his lights flash. So he actually sticks to his Series X console due to that reason. Watch his video. I'll try and find it and link it in the description below. It is there. But the fact that this guy compared a max load console under a suspended mode PS5 is just insane to me. Point 8. PlayStation 5 has a head start. PlayStation 4 dominated Xbox One, and this also boosts the reputation of PlayStation 5. Many gamers are buying PS5 either because they're loyal to the brand or because the PS4 was so successful. Sony is doing everything to keep them, as most of the PS4 games work on the PlayStation 5. This means the Xbox Series X is handicapped from the beginning. Of course, Microsoft showed us with Xbox 360 that it knows how to beat Sony. Still, it's hard to believe the Xbox Series X will have a better reputation with both consumers and developers in the first couple of years. This is another reason to wait before buying an Xbox Series X. So why wait when you know what Microsoft is doing, going out buying all these studios to get exclusive games on their system? What is the point in waiting? You have a massive back catalog of games. You just said about the PlayStation 5 being able to play most of the PlayStation 4 games. Well, the Series X can play all of the Xbox One games, a lot of the Xbox 360 games, and even some of the original Xbox games, even via the disc of the original Xbox and Xbox 360 games. Back compat is far superior. We've had two amazing games in 2021, which is Forza Horizon 5 and Halo Infinite. Those are games that anybody should want to play, whether you're a PlayStation 5 fan or an Xbox fan. They are both phenomenal games, and I would recommend them to anybody. So if you've got games like that, and then we've talked about in my recent video games coming in 2022, which there are a ton of, by the way, what's the point in holding off? You've only got Horizon Forbidden West coming out on PlayStation 5 this month. Then after that, you've got, I think it's Gran Turismo, which is nowhere near going to be as good as Forza Horizon 5. We all know that Xbox has the racing games nailed. They're always superior. After that, where is the things? On Xbox, you've got Redfall and Starfield, just two of those games that I'm mentioning here. Stalker 2, just those three alone beat every single game, in my opinion, coming to the PlayStation 5. And there are a ton more as well coming this year. There is more games coming to Xbox this year than PlayStation 5, in my opinion, and I can see, I'm looking in front of me right now with all the games listed that we looked at in my last video, sorry, so check that out if you want to disprove me. Point 9, PS5 has better audio. It seems that everyone stopped caring about audio quality. Even the expensive PC gaming setups use crappy integrated sound cards, and everyone is listening to highly compressed music on streaming services. Actually, no, they're not, because some people pay for things like Tidal, and that is actually CD quality, so not true. Even Spotify has improved. Apple Music now has a lossless format playable. However, both PS5 and Xbox Series X made significant leaps. Microsoft's console has a dedicated sound chip, meaning not only it sounds better, but it's also not consuming CPU power. So you're saying that Microsoft's console is better? Okay, next part of it. However, PS5 is far more exciting, of course it is, as it has 3D audio that incorporates head-related transfer function. What it does is letting you calibrate the sound to your ears so you can enjoy it in the best possible way. This might be the most crucial advancement in audio technology on consoles since the surround sound. Let me tell you guys, there is actually a thing you can get on Xbox called, Dolby. Yes, you do have to pay £14 or something in the, I can't remember. You can buy Dolby Atmos, which changes the way your games sound. You can change exactly what it is here. You can change the sound to your own ears and what you personally like. Yes, it kind of sucks you have to pay for it, but it's not Xbox's own version. It is Dolby. It's, Dolby have to make money. And it's actually factually proven that the Dolby version compared to, I can't remember, the temporal sampling engine that the PS5 has, is superior. Dolby is superior. So you actually have better sound quality on Xbox if you do want to pay for Dolby. So yeah, there actually is the option to have better sound quality on Xbox if you want it. That is a fact. So I'm not sure what they're referring to there, because they even talk about how the Xbox does have its own chip in there to reduce CPU usage, which, by the way, the CPU is better on the Xbox Series X. So just to throw that out there. And the 10th point they make is the Xbox Series X controller lacks excitement. Now that's fine. If that's something you really care about, the adapted triggers on PS5, I turned mine off on my PS5 because in the end of the day, those triggers ran the battery down so quick. I would have to charge every 2 hours of gaming. The battery life on that controller is so awful that I basically leave it plugged in permanently. So that kind of eliminates the point where they talk about AA batteries, because I have a battery pack for my Series X controller that cost me £10, and that controller can last me up to a week of gaming about 3 to 4 hours per day, compared to me having to constantly leave my PS5 control tethered, especially if I have my adaptive triggers on, which kind of defeats the point of it being even have, you know, rechargeability in it in the first place, because it's constantly plugged in whenever I do use it. So that argument is kind of stupid. If you really like adaptive triggers and stuff like that, then great. You know, you still actually have the very, very intense rumble features that are on the Xbox controller, and in my opinion, the Xbox controller is the best controller out there. It's the most ergonomic, it's the most comfortable, in my opinion. Obviously people have different opinions. I think it's the best there, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They made the delay better as well, by the way. I've noticed a huge difference in competitive shooters compared to the PlayStation 5 controller with input response delay, especially when you're playing at 120 FPS modes on both PS5 and Series X. So that is it. This article is just utter dross and just kind of shows why people who don't have a wide understanding of the tech and actually use the consoles for a decent amount of time. You can look back on my channel and you can see I've kind of dabbled with each system, but I have stuck to the Series X as buying all my games on there, because obviously apart from exclusive games on PlayStation 5, but I'm sticking to Xbox because in my opinion it is the better system, it's the more powerful system, the games look better and they have higher frame rates, which at the end of the day is what it should be the most important thing out of all this, is the graphics and the frame rate of the system you're playing on. Not to mention amazing features like FPS boost on previous games, resolution boost on previous games, quick resume, none of those features that are available on the PlayStation 5. All in all, the Series X is the better system in my opinion. But that is it for today, guys. I hope you did enjoy this one. I can't believe some of the stuff in this article, how they talk about comparing the power usage of a standard PlayStation 5 being off or in rest mode and a Series X under heavy load. It's just a joke. So I can't believe some of that stuff, but let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and I'll see you in future videos. Remember to like and subscribe. Bye-bye for now.